Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go up to all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
Mr. President, this is your prize. This is your Peace Prize. There is also a beautiful medal for you that you can wear everywhere you want to go.
I'm going to wear it right now.
Okay, let me hold. Fantastic. Excellent.
This is truly one of the great honors of my life. And beyond awards, Johnny and I were discussing this. We saved millions and millions of lives. I want to thank, by the way, my family, my great First Lady, Melania. You're right here, and thank you very much. And I think you're going to have an event the likes of which maybe the world has never seen. Based on the enthusiasm that I've seen, I have never seen anything like it. We've had a tremendous working relationship with Canada. We have our Prime Minister of Canada there, and we have our President of Mexico. And we've worked closely with those two countries, and the coordination and friendship and relationship has been outstanding. And I want to thank you both very much, and your countries very much. The world is a safer place now. The United States 1 year ago was not doing too well. And now I have to say we're the hottest country anywhere in the world, and we're going to keep it that way. Thank you all. Thank you. Have a great time. And Johnny, a tremendous honor. Thank you.
Oh, kill me now. Oh, Jesus Christ. You know what kills me out of all this, ladies and gentlemen? That FIFA, literally the number one name when it comes to European football, or just football in general, when it comes to the world, the most recognizable name. And you guys gave Taco a peace trophy to where he literally and figuratively acts like a 5-year-old that just got a toy for his birthday, takes the medal out, puts it on, and it's just so proud. He's so proud. And I'm just like, this is by far the fakest for a Peace Prize. And look at the award. The award looks like something that was crafted out of somebody that watched too much Hellraiser. I'm just saying, because Jesus Christ, that's not peace. That is you saying, sir, this is what you're doing to the world right now, dragging us basically to hell. Anyway, welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here. Today's date, I almost said July, December 10th, 2025. As we usually do on this show, we do give you all the news that you can use, that you can make sense of it all. We do pride ourselves on being a news podcast. What does that mean? That means we only cite from sources with reputable sources and award-winning journalism. Grammar errors aside, we do not do sensational news like Fox News, The Blaze, The Daily Beast, wherever you get your extreme right or extreme left views from. We simply don't do that. We simply present you but the facts. At the same time, guys, we may show things that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So yeah, Taco getting a fake-ass peace trophy because he really won the Nobel Prize. I've never seen so much envy from an old white man that basically wants to do everything the black guy did. Because again, President Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize. He won the Nobel Peace Prize. Taco, well, I don't understand. Why can I not win it? I'm a peace person. I've stopped 8 wars. How do I not have peace? I have lowered costs on day one. I have lowered costs. How is that not peaceful? No, in his mind, everything works, and the economy is A+++++. Woo! Oh, it must be nice to be stupid. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. But the reason why we should be concerned, guys, because remember I started and talked about the dangers of a conservative-leaning Supreme Court. Well, that same conservative-leaning Supreme Court may have just handled Taco his greatest victory yet. And we should all be very concerned.
Reports here case over independent government agencies operating free from political interference. FTC Commission member Rebecca Slaughter suing the Trump administration over President Trump's attempt to remove her. She argues Congress designed these agencies to have bipartisan voices so there could be accountability and transparency. President Trump argues the president must have full control over the leadership of agencies that set policies and force regulations. If the justices side with Trump, presidents could terminate members of independent agencies at will, which could mark the end of their independence. ABC News legal contributor James Samples here for more on this. Hi, James. So the lower courts have ruled this termination illegal, right? They say a president can only fire a commissioner for cause. So how critical is that, and how is the administration arguing against that?
Good morning, Diane. It is interesting here that we are in a circumstance that really, if you step back for a moment, is truly unique in American history and in Supreme Court history, in the sense that I think that the outcome of this particular case is almost at this point a foregone conclusion, even though that outcome will be the overturning of a precedent that goes back 90 years. So we are so often thinking of things in our current society on a kind of binary level. Is it left? Is it right? Is it Donald Trump? Is it, a Democrat? This particular provision was written into the law in 1914, and in 1933, the chief opponent of the provision, the for-cause only removal provision, which essentially says fixed terms, multi-member commissions, so that the president will have some authority and ability to shape a commission, any number of these independent agencies, but not complete and total authority. The initial chief opponent was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and now it's Donald Trump, which should tell you that presidents on both sides desire to control these agencies. Congress set it up so that wouldn't be the case, but it appears quite likely, based on earlier cases and based on oral arguments in other matters, that the Supreme Court is likely to strike down the independence of independent agencies.
So, James, what are the potential outcomes and impacts here?
Well, if the court strikes down as most observers expect, if the court strikes down this arrangement, the near-term consequences for the FTC mean that Donald Trump can reshape it. But the broader consequences, there are more than a dozen agencies. You can kind of think of it as the alphabet soup of American government. More than a dozen agencies around the country in the federal government have this kind of fixed-term independent agency structure, and those agencies will essentially become scenarios where the president, no matter who the president is at any given point, can fire individual commissioners at will and bend the commissions, bend the agencies to the president, his or her own prerogatives.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what it comes down to. That out of all of that he said, and again, the reason why we should be concerned, because keep in mind, Taco has tried to fire. He tried to fire the Federal Reserve governor. He tried to fire Lisa Cook, who was the Federal Reserve governor. He's now tried to fire the head of the Federal Trade Commission, Rebecca Slaughter. He's tried to fire her. And I can keep going down the list. Because again, Taco believes that his presidency is more like a business, and that he has the end all be all when it does come to who he wants there and who's not. And I've sat there and said this multiple times when it comes to his presidency. The second go around, he's learned it's not smart people he wants. He wants people loyal to him. He wants people who are going to fall on the sword, who are going to kiss his ass, who is going to make excuses for him. He wants mouthpieces and seat warmers. That's his entire administration, in a nutshell. So, yes, he wants the ability to go into the independent, because, again, the FTC is independent. The FCC is independent. They've always been independent of political parties because that's how they're designed to function. They do not serve either political party. They serve the people as a whole. And, again, what Taco wants to do, especially with the FTC, the same thing he did with the FCC, because again, he's got his seat warmer over at the FCC, who is now threatening to go after ABC and NBC because CBS is already compromised. Keep in mind, the owner of CBS at the time, also Paramount, wanted to buy Skydance. In order for him to buy Skydance, what did he do? He kissed Taco's ass. What did Taco want? 60 Minutes basically neutered, and at the same time, Stephen Colbert off the air. And again, it's almost amazing what does he want? What does he want on the ABC side? Oh, Jimmy Kimmel. I want him gone too. And for a second, he was off because, however you take away said by Charlie Kirk comments. He was off for a little while, but now he's back. And now he's signed on for another year. But trust me, believe when I say this, Taco wants absolute control of these independent agencies so he can still further continue what he wants to do and get rid of people who are not going to be his mouthpieces or his seat warmers. That's all it is. And even more so, we should be concerned that, again, it's the conservative-leaning Supreme Court. And I've said this before, it's always scary because you don't know which way they'll go. But the last 8 out of 10 times has always been in Taco's favor. And that alone is scary if he does get the ability to basically go after independent agencies with absolute power. Because the president is not supposed to have absolute power. And yet the Supreme Court is guaranteeing all but that to Taco. But also the Supreme Court is going to be listening to is challenge to campaign spending limits. You guys forget, next year is the midterms. Republicans are very afraid. They have nothing to show for the whole time they've been in power. They have nothing to show for as far as the fact that they passed a bill that nobody wanted. Prices are up across the board. Nobody can afford anything from groceries, daycares, even new cars, or homes for that matter. But in Taco's world, everything is peachy. Republicans cannot even have town halls right now. And Democrats, well, Democrats have had some small victories here and there, not most recently being that the mayor of Miami is now a Democrat after 30 years. The Miami has always had a conservative mayor for nearly 30 years. This is the first time in 30 years Miami will have a Democratic mayor. That says a lot. Not to mention the month before where there were special elections being held that Democrats did make significant gains. Does that mean a lot? Yes, it does. Does that mean it's still got more to go? Yes, it does. But again, the midterms can be a toss-up. Now, what does it got to do with campaign spending limits? Well, if you guys don't know, Citizens United is still around.
Challenge to campaign spending limits. A Republican coalition, including Vice President Vance, is trying to get rid of limits that restrict parties from directly financing TV ads and candidate organizing efforts. ABC's contributor Sarah Isgur is here for more on that. Hi, Sarah. So this case focuses on the amount of money a political party can spend in direct coordination with a candidate. So what do you make of the argument so far?
That's right. And so far, we have the Republican side versus the Democratic side, which has not always been the case in some of these past campaign finance questions involving the parties. Here, the representative, the lawyer for the Republican side, said he believed it's because right now the Republican Party seems to be raising more money than the Democratic Party. But he said, this is not about one party's competitive advantage. It's about free speech, and that there is no corruption interests to prevent parties from spending money with their candidates. Some of the justices, like Justice Kagan, pushing back and saying there's a big difference between being able to give $4,000 to a party versus what we've seen from Joe Biden to Donald Trump of individual donors giving $500,000 with all of these party committees combined.
The Trump administration isn't enforcing those spending limits. So how much would change if the court does away with them?
That's a good question. Now, you say that they're not enforcing them. That's because the Federal Election Commission has not had a quorum in many years at this point. But someone who violated those campaign laws would still have broken the law. So a future administration, a future Department of Justice could still prosecute them. So individual donors, individual parties are still abiding by those laws and those coordination limits. Now, the coordination issue is a little different. This isn't about how much money a donor can give to the party. This is about how much that party can talk to its candidates. Right now, for most of that money, they are not allowed to talk to the candidates about their message, about when ads are going, where ads are going. It has to be totally separate. And what they're asking for here is to remove that barrier so that they and the candidates can work hand in hand on those messages, policies, polling, where to run ads, things like that.
Meanwhile, the Supreme Court appears likely to expand presidential power by allowing President Trump to remove a federal trade commissioner.
So we'll stop it there because it basically goes into the previous story that we're just at. So long story short, money is not going to go away. And I've said before, and I'll say again, money in politics, especially when it comes to lobbying, should honestly be forbidden. It should be a felony. It should be outlawed. I think the Citizens United should be overturned because, you know, allowing unlimited amounts of money into campaigns for potential politicians going in certain offices just muddies the water. Because if you've got a crap load of money, you can easily be heard over people that don't have it. And that's what happened. Millionaires, billionaires, and probably close to trillionaires have all been able to hobnob with representatives and senators and, you know, potential future political stars. And they sat there and said, hey, we will give you this, but we want this done versus the will of the people. And that's why Citizens United is so dangerous. That's why money lobbying in Congress is so dangerous. Because, again, people always feel like, well, my situation is not going to get heard until they want my vote. Right, because they can't buy your vote. Politicians can't buy your vote. That's what millionaires and billionaires have been doing. Basically making sure that their interests are covered through these political campaigns and PACs. The thing about this is, and again, if the Supreme Court does rule on this, it's a scary thought because the little floodgates that we have in place will be wide freaking open. And it just makes things worse and it just muddies the waters. But this is why I keep saying the entire time, folks, that when it comes to certain candidacies, it depends. Look at who is donating to their campaigns, look at who they're sponsoring, look at their views, everything else, because it will tell you everything. That's why Mayor-elect Madani, yeah, for all intents and purposes, is all crowdsourcing. I will give that man credit for, you know, when he does eventually get sworn in as mayor. But he is one in a million. And the thing about it is, as long as money is flowing into politics untethered when it should not be flowing in there at all, I fear that argument will never go away. And the Supreme Court, what they're doing right now, if they rule in favor of it, it's going to make it worse. Just saying. But moving right along, guys, I had to get to this as well because Taco is basically pulling, well, I'm not gonna say history repeats itself, but yeah, history repeats itself.
This morning, President Trump announcing a lifeline for American farmers hurt by his trade policies. Trump now planning to use revenue from tariffs to pay for a $12 billion bailout.
This relief will provide much needed certainty to farmers as they get this year's harvest to market and look ahead to next year's crops. And it'll help them continue their efforts to lower food prices.
The president blaming Democrats for Americans' concerns about affordability.
We inherited high prices. We inherited the biggest inflation in the history of our country.
One major affordability concern centers around healthcare. Insurance premiums are set to skyrocket next month for millions of Americans because Obamacare subsidies are set to expire unless Congress takes action. But some lawmakers say they're not optimistic a plan will come together in time.
We don't live in La La Land.
The Senate is expected to vote this week on a bill from Democrats that would extend Obamacare tax credits for 3 years. But that bill is expected to fail because it does not include reforms to Obamacare that Republicans want.
Democrats' great scheme to fix health care, Obamacare, has failed. So what are Democrats proposing to do this week, Mr. President? Introduce reforms? Perhaps try a different approach?
Republicans have no plan. They are so divided between themselves, they can't even put a plan together.
You know, how many times we sat there and heard this one before? Farmers unable to make profits. Their crops remain unpurchased and is ruined. And they're all looking for Taco for help. And now he says, wait a minute, I will now draft a $12 billion bailout based off the revenue from the tariffs. Let's try this one again. Taco said that he is going to introduce a $12 billion package based off the revenue from his tariffs that he put in. What revenue? Because let's call it what it is, ladies and gentlemen. The bailout package that he is doing for farmers, me and you are going to be paying. But again, I say history repeats itself because it really was just 6 years ago that we wound up saying the exact same goddamn thing.
Today, the White House announcing a multi-billion-dollar bailout for American farmers who've been hurt by the trade war between the U.S. and China.
But some lawmakers are already voicing some concerns over that bailout package. KCO United's Raquel Martin takes a look.
It's a good time to be a farmer. We're going to make sure of that.
With the end of a trade war with China nowhere in sight, President Trump is offering a second round of financial help to farmers who are caught in the middle.
Our farmers will be greatly helped. We want to get them back to the point where they would have had if they had a good year.
The president unveiled a $16 billion package. $14.5 billion of that will actually go to buy up unsold crops and prop up prices.
It's going to be a big help. Will it be enough? I think you got to get back to something very basic. Any sort of aid will be helpful.
Iowa Republican Senator Chuck Grassley says the money should help ease the pain, something he says will give President Trump more time to negotiate a better trade deal with Beijing.
Farmers, just like most Americans, have had enough with China.
But not everyone is applauding the announcement. The National Farmers Union, representing roughly 200,000 farmers and ranchers, says the plan is, quote, a short-term fix to a long-term problem that fails to bring adequate relief.
It's not enough. Our farmers are hurting significantly.
Illinois Democrat Senator Tammy Duckworth calls the package a political ploy.
Stop using our farmers and our economy as a political tool for your re-election campaign.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture says it will begin distributing aid to farmers in July.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, that was 7 years ago. Here we are now in 2025. And it's almost as if history repeats itself. Taco has a problem with China. China is our biggest, was our biggest purchaser of soybeans. To which now they sat there and said, yeah, we're good. We'll go to Argentina. We'll buy their soybeans. While American soybean farmers are basically saying, well, we can't keep our farms and we can't do this and we can't do that. Oh, Daddy Trump, help us. To which Taco says, fear not, my farmers. I will make sure that your farms and your votes are secure by making the American taxpayers pay for it. Again, history repeats itself. And I hate to say that even during moments of Congress, where even Chuck Schumer said the Republicans don't have a plan. And that, ladies and gentlemen, can sum up the entire year of 2025. The Republicans don't have a plan. They don't have concepts of a plan. I said Republicans have become the welfare queens that they talk about, that they're trying to remove off SNAP and food assistance and things of that nature, and benefits, things of that nature. These Republican senators and these Republican representatives are the true welfare queens. Not to outdo the napkins in Kentucky. You know who you are. That one county that's on that 99% of you guys are on food stamps and 95% of y'all vote conservative. You know who you are. But yeah, history repeats itself. But there is one good note that we do have about this week that we can say that thankfully we'll finally see one of Trump's loyalists go. Why? Because, well, she was appointed illegally because nobody appointed her there, but Taco gave her the job. She has now been handed her walking papers.
So Lena Howe, President Donald Trump's former personal lawyer, resigned today as the top federal prosecutor in New Jersey. Her resignation follows an appeals court ruling that she was serving in the position unlawfully. Howe was the first of the president's U.S. attorney appointments to face a legal challenge, but since then, 3 others have been found to be serving improperly. Howe will remain as a senior advisor to Attorney General Pam Bondi.
So, yeah, goodbye, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, good night. Because number one, she was never appointed. Much like Elon Musk and his Department of Government Efficiency, she was never appointed. So it's amazing how immediately she was given the job of U.S. Attorney from New Jersey, and she wasn't voted for it. So yes, after a long-standing battle, which thankfully they sat there and said, Heffa, you can go. Alina Baba can go, unfortunately, but she is still somehow special counsel. So at least she's out of one position where she can't affect the state, but unfortunately she can still influence the nation. Win the I guess lose the battle, but still hopefully win the war, I guess. We'll see. But also, another thing that has happened, which is going to kind of lead to the next thing, because, well, all I can sit there and say is Republicans, you ask for the smoke and you proceed to go with the smoke. So what I mean by that is this story first.
For Republicans, the Supreme Court says Texas can use a new congressional map, which could give the GOP a big advantage in next year's elections. But not all the justices agreed. ABC's Nicole D'Antonio has the details. Hey, Nicole, good morning.
Sophie, good morning. The nation's highest court overturned a lower court ruling that found the new Texas maps were illegally drawn based on race. But Texas state officials argued the map was drawn purely for political advantage, which the Supreme Court has previously allowed. Now, in the wake of this decision, the new maps will be used in next year's midterm elections and are expected to give Republicans a net gain of 5 congressional seats. The court's 3 liberal justices dissented, Justice Kagan writing, "The court's order disserves the millions of Texans whom the district court found were assigned to their new districts based on their race." But the majority insisted the lower court had improperly inserted itself into an active primary campaign, upsetting the delicate federal-state balance in elections. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says the new maps better represent Texas voters and their Republican majority, and this decision means that other states will rush to redraw their own maps. Now, California has already voted to redraw its map to favor Democrats and offset those losses.
So, yeah, for all those that have been under a rock, what actually happened is, and we covered this about 2 months ago, where Texas has decided, we want to redraw our districts because we want to include more Republican seats, because Taco basically called the governor and said, I want 4 more Republican seats in Texas, and redrawing the districts basically allowed him to do that. Now, of course, this led to a court battle to where, again, it was shot down. It was shot down to the point to where this map could not be used for the current election, because the reason why we say that for Texas, 2 reasons. Representative Al Green and Representative Jasmine Crockett were just 2 out of the 4 seats that were in danger, because, again, Republicans are worried about the midterms and they're trying to move the goalpost in their favor. So, long story short, this goes back to a conservative-leaning Supreme Court. And what happens in a conservative-leaning Supreme Court, as I've said before at the beginning of this podcast, 8 out of 10 times, they basically bend the freaking knee. So, with that ruling that they gave that, Texas can use their new maps, Jasmine Crockett, unfortunately, does lose her seat. Representative Al Green, he loses his seat along with 2 others. But this does not stop California, which has already decided to go ahead and redraw its districts to actually gain more Democratic seats, while Republicans lose more seats. To which, of course, Republicans complain, but hey, you guys got to do it, so why not us? So that left one of the most recognizable figures in the Democratic Party, Jasmine Crockett, nothing but one other choice, since her seat in her office would now be dissolved. Jasmine Crockett is now running for Senate.
How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her? She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble.
But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person.
I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man. She's a very low IQ person.
Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding.
Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
All's my life I has to fight. All's my life I
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the moment that we have all been waiting for. The next U.S. Senator from this great state of Texas. Please welcome to the stage, Miss Jasmine Crockett!
We gon' be all right. Huh? We gon' be all right. We gon' be all right.
Y'all look good. Y'all look real good. But are you fired up? Are you ready to go? All right, Texas, let's get down to it. I know y'all are ready to hear some good news, and some of y'all already heard it before you even got here. Yes, it is true. I am running to become your next United States Senator from the state of Texas. I honestly can't put into words what it means to me. You see, a lot of people think that making decisions like this, you take them lightly. I'm here to tell you that I understand that there's a responsibility. I'm not reading from my script, so they're about to be confused. There's a responsibility that lies with all of us, especially in this moment. There are a lot of people that said, you got to stay in the house. We need our voice. We need you there. And I understand. But what we need is for me to have a bigger voice. What we need is not only a voice, but we need to make sure that we are going to stop all the hell that is raining down on all of our people. So over the last couple of months, I've been thinking about our future. Where do we go from here? And obviously, I've been thinking about Texas. I thought about my classmates from law school. One is standing right up front, Mr. Anthony Farmer. I thought about the big dreams we all had, fighting for justice in the courtroom, starting our own businesses, buying a home, starting families. If you think about it, our dreams were the American dream. Opportunities for those who work hard, home ownership, jobs, entrepreneurship, and security. And that time we were headed into the Great Recession. I took a job in East Texas for a pretty well-known family-owned law firm. I began doing class action defense work. And honestly, I wondered if I'd made a mistake. I wondered if that was really what I was supposed to be doing. It just so happened that they had just started a new public defender's office in rural East Texas. And so I decided that I would join that public defender's office. I joined it because I believed everybody deserved a voice in the courtroom. Even if they couldn't afford an attorney, one would be provided to them, and that attorney was me. I loved being a courtroom warrior. I got some judges here. They probably can't identify themselves, but nevertheless, I loved being in the courtroom. You know, I never thought that I would run for office, but some people are able to inspire others as they walk their own path. As a 27-year-old public defender walking in her path, there was someone who came along and inspired me. There was this charismatic, funny, intelligent, and exciting young candidate with a funny name who just got into the U.S. Senate and was running for president. Many doubted if this country was ready, while others, well, we got to work and kept hope alive. We didn't focus on the naysayers. We didn't get distracted by any pollsters. We remained laser focused on getting the person who was best for the job into the seat. We didn't let history diminish our hope in what was possible. We ignored that the devil on our shoulder that sometimes tries to tell us your vote doesn't matter. The country's not ready. He can't win. And responded with that timeless American creed. Yes, we can. Yes, I'm talking about President Barack Obama. How many no's do you think he heard before he got a yes? No, you can't win. No, the country's not ready for a Black president. No, a Black man can't get elected. No, your middle name is Hussein. No, you can't beat the Clinton machine. But every time they told him no, he looked them right in the eyes and he told them yes. He said, yes, we can. Yes, we can deliver on health care. Yes, we can enshrine equal rights. Yes, we can bring jobs back to America, create opportunities for all. And yes, we can save the economy after a Republican president sends it into the gutter. People ran lies, rumors, and tried to poke holes in everything about Obama, from his faith to his heritage. Falsehoods about his daddy, mistruths about his mama. There was even a question about his birth certificate. But he didn't let any of that get in his way. He worked and worked and worked to inspire and instill a sense of hope. And man, do I remember. I remember hoping. Now, I don't know if I really believed, but I knew that we had to try. I knew that we had the power. He turned those no, you can'ts into yes, we cans. Yes, we deserve better. Yes, we will dig deep. Yes, we can. Back then, as the housing bubble burst and the economy crashed, I saw everyone around me struggling. I saw a system that ignored them and legal system that failed them. Then I remembered Obama's words: change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. So many of you don't know, but I was 28 by now. And I decided that I was going to run to become the Bowie County Democratic Party chair. I was elected as the youngest Black Democratic Party chair in the history of Texas. Later, I moved to Dallas, and frustrated by the broken laws on our books, I ran for the Texas House of Representatives to be that agent of change. I took on the establishment, ran against an incumbent, and there were folks in my ear, that devil on my shoulder, that said I could not win. I was being outspent 5-1. And even those that said I had to be less of myself, I tuned that noise out. And even though I was outspent, I was never outworked. When I look across this room, I see folks who knocked on doors for me back then in 2020. I see people who believed in me before any viral moments. I see people who believed that I could and would be different. I see the people that locked arms with me. Some of those elected officials that went out on a limb and endorsed me when nobody else would. You see, I didn't get anywhere on my own. Every step of the way has been with you, the people who have fueled this fire. You've chipped in your hard-earned money. Hey, donors, because I see some of y'all too. You put in the sweat equity under the hot Texas sun, knocking on doors, putting out signs. You've driven your neighbors to the polls, dragged your coworkers to go vote. You're the ones who walk your precincts, register thousands of voters, and you're the ones who flip seats across the state at every level. When Texas turns blue, it won't be because of any one candidate, but because of each and every one of you doing your part. Turning Texas blue is what I want to talk to y'all about today. Now, there are those that say, ain't no way, we done tried it 50 kinds of ways. Let me be clear, y'all ain't never tried it the JC way. We used to telling us what I can't do, but they have no idea what Crockett's crew will do. And so I just want to be clear for all the haters in the back, listen up real loud. We gonna get this thing done. So they tell us that Texas is red. They are lying. We're not. The reality is that most Texans don't get out to vote. The reality is that the people that I used to work with in the Texas House did everything that they could to make sure that they could suppress voices. If we were so red, they wouldn't be so pressed. Let me be clear. The reason that the governor always got time to call out my name is because he understands that I know how to speak to everybody, not just some folk. There are folks who feel like their vote doesn't matter and that nothing will change or that candidates don't speak to them. And honestly, I can't blame them. But I'm here to address those Texans specifically who feel as their vote doesn't matter. Let me tell you it does. Earlier, I talked about my first race for state representative, and I talked about the fact that I was outspent 5-1. They had the money, but I had the people. When the first batch of votes came out, I was down by 700 votes. I told my team it was over. Carmen, who's right up front, rushes down and says, "No, we about to go to elections." I said, "Y'all, it's over. We've been voting for 3 weeks and we down by 700. We ain't coming back." Around 10 o'clock, somehow somebody said, "Rep, you only down." Well, I wasn't rep then. "You only down by 50 votes. I said, "Oh, we getting good. We getting good." I said, "Now y'all tell me what's still out. Is anything out? Are we done?" Because it was getting late. And they said, "MLK is still out." I said, "Oh." I said, if anybody came through for me, it was gonna be MLK. And when I tell y'all, when the votes were counted, I had won by 90 votes. Out of 10,000 votes that were cast, I won by 90. It was the closest state house race in the entire state of Texas that year. Do you know where those votes came from? They came from the mom who organized the entire neighborhood to go vote because she knew I would fight like hell for her daughter. It came from the retired firefighter who talked to each and every one of his or her neighbors in the senior homes and the people that they lived around. It came from everywhere. It came from the churches. It came from home healthcare workers who ran across the street to vote at the library during their lunch break. It came from citizens who hadn't voted in years, but went to cast their ballots because they believed that I would bring a new generation of servant leadership to the government of the people, by the people, for the people. Each and every one of those votes made up the 90 votes we needed to bring change. And I'm gonna add this. It even came from unhoused folk. See, what y'all don't understand is that people like to devalue certain people, but the only place that equalizes us is at the ballot box. So I don't ever want anybody, no matter what your socioeconomic background is, to believe that you don't matter or you don't count, because the time that you count is when you are at the ballot box. A single grain of rice can tip the scales. Every single vote counts, and that couldn't be truer in the United States Senate. It was a single vote in the United States Senate that saved the Affordable Care Act, that saved millions of Americans' health care coverage. That vote was cast by John McCain, who showed bravery and honored his oath of service. Yeah, clap it up. He bucked his party's president to do what was right for his constituents. Sadly enough, we all know that Senator John Cornyn does not have the guts to stand up to Trump. But I can tell y'all who does. I do. Cornyn carries on with business as usual while small businesses across Texas take the hit from Trump's tariffs. Well, I'm done with politics as usual. I'm done with going along to get along, and it gets us nowhere. I'm done watching rural hospitals and public schools close their doors. I'm done watching parents be afraid to send their kids to school or the mall or the movies because Republicans have flooded our streets with guns. I'm done with the senators sitting around doing nothing while Trump takes your hard-earned money, skims your Social Security, slashes Medicare, and gives tax breaks to billionaires. I'm done. I'm done watching the American dream on life support while Trump tries to pull the plug. The gloves have been off, and now I'm jumping into the ring. I'm asking for your support to be the next United States Senator from the greatest state of Texas.
And as much as I would love to watch it, we got to cut it off right there. But yes, this is the consequences. And yes, Jasmine Crockett is running to be the next senator of Texas. I am all for it. However, I will say this. Just like the title of this podcast, this time vote for the black woman. We've seen what happens when you vote for the white idiot. Try vote for the black woman for once. It might be a difference. But again, this is why I say these are consequences, guys. Just because of the fact of the Republicans are trying to move the goalposts, I am happy to sit there and say, well, some Democrats have some spines, showing some backbone, saying, hey, we cannot expect the current moderate centrist Dems to do our job for us. And I have said there said many times podcast, I will say it again. If Democrats want any shot at the midterms, let the women lead and be progressive. Because why do you say that? Well, why do women have to lead? Because that's progressive. And it's not like women leaders don't do bad. More countries have figured out that having a woman as prime minister or as president or in any type of administrative presidential like role, countries have thrived. The president of New Zealand is a woman. That should tell you right there. The British prime minister at one time was a woman, and they did it, and the country did exceptionally well under them. Yet, I really want people to be honest with yourselves. Is the fact that you cannot handle the fact that if a woman did run and become Madam President, that you simply can't follow her because she's a woman? I mean, be honest with yourselves, because that's what I want you to do. Because it is amazing that in the last presidential election, we had a VP who's been a VP, who's been a senator, who is more than qualified to could have been president. And yet you chose the celebrity apprentice felon who is pretty much a pedo, and you chose him over her. This time, vote for the black woman. Next year's midterms are going to be very, very freaking interesting. But speaking of interesting, and I should say this is also a waste of time, much like James Comey's case was thrown out because, well, the DOJ didn't have a case. Letitia James, same way.
Good evening. I'm Alex Perche in Washington, and we begin with some breaking news. Sources tell ABC News that a federal grand jury in Virginia has rejected the Department of Justice's attempt to revive a fraud case against New York Attorney General Letitia James. Sources also say that federal prosecutors failed to convince a majority of grand jurors to approve charges that James misled a bank for favorable terms on a home mortgage. ABC News previously reported that prosecutors who investigated James for possible mortgage fraud found evidence that appeared to undercut some of the allegations in her September indictment. So for more on this, I want to bring in our Washington, D.C. Bureau Managing Editor, Catherine Valders, and also ABC News legal contributor and professor at Hofstra Law, James Sample. And Catherine, I want to begin with you. What more do we know about this grand jury rejecting the DOJ's attempt to revive this fraud case?
So remember, it was just days ago that a judge threw out the charges against New York Attorney General Letitia James because the judge found that the U.S. attorney there, Lindsay Halligan, Trump's former defense attorney, now U.S. attorney, that the judge found that her appointment to be U.S. attorney was invalid. So the cases were thrown out, both of Tish James and former FBI Director James Comey. Now, we knew from sources that prosecutors would try and indict the case again. We do know that it wasn't Lindsay Halligan, the U.S. attorney, who presented the charges again. It was another person who was working on the case to potentially, obviously, make the charges valid if they were to be charged and if the grand jury were to return an indictment. So we know that down in Norfolk, Virginia, a grand jury met today and received a presentment of charges related to bank fraud. So those similar charges that we know were thrown out, and that the grand jury declined to return the indictment. So they voted essentially no
on the charges. We don't know what that vote is, but it definitely is a blow to the Justice Department as they continue to attempt to prosecute people who Trump has said or perceived to be his political enemies. So that's at least what we know so far. Now, that does not mean, Alex, that they won't attempt to try and re-indict again. Will they go to a grand jury again? Will they go to another grand jury in the Eastern District of Virginia? This was in Norfolk. There's another one in Alexandria. All these things are still on the table from sources that I'm talking to. But what we know right now is that federal prosecutors tried to get an indictment returned, tried to bring these charges again, and were unsuccessful.
So, long story short, there was no case. Just like former director James Comey, there was no case. Why? Because Taco did not like the fact that his so-called political people use offices to go after him. So what does he think he's doing? He basically told his lapdog, AG Pam Bondi, that these people need to be investigated. So what happened? They did an indictment on former FBI Director James Comey. They did an indictment on New York Attorney General Letitia James. And both cases were thrown out for lack of evidence. Keep that in mind, folks. Lack of evidence. Even all the more reason why I keep saying these cases are going to get thrown out. Because Letitia James covered her P's and Q's. When she nailed Trump to the wall for basically his mortgage fraud, there was no P's and Q's missed. She got him for everything. It's amazing that he tried to go after her for mortgage fraud. I'm like, sir, you were convicted of mortgage fraud. Wouldn't that kind of make you an expert and also a felon? At the same time, she did nothing wrong. Hence why you don't hear a lot from Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. Her mortgage fraud case that he's trying to bring up, she did nothing wrong. I expect that case to be thrown out. And James Comey, what did he say? Exactly nothing. Nothing incriminating. So all these cases are a waste of time. And I say this because this isn't the first time Taco has done this. He's done this to Fulton County prosecutor Fannie Willis. Because Fannie Willis, for all those that don't remember, she was the prosecutor for the Fulton County in Georgia election interference case that Taco was a part of, and that was bound to happen because Taco at that point called the Georgia Secretary of State and said, I need you to find 11,580 votes because I need you to overturn Georgia. Yet I don't know how that call wasn't just a shining bullet to his conviction. I'll never understand it. But we all remember Taco whined and cried that this election interference case would mess with his campaign when he was a private citizen, not a president. And the case got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And then they tried to insinuate that Willis had an improper affair. That became a case of their own to have her removed. Didn't work out. Her lead prosecutor left the case. And then Taco unfortunately became president. And just like that, all of his cases went bye-bye. DA Fannie Willis found herself removed as prosecutor. She tried to appeal and failed. A new prosecutor was just installed. A new prosecutor for that case was just installed a little over 2 weeks ago, and they dropped the case. Why? More than likely, that was the price of the reason why they became the prosecutor for that county. You can become the prosecutor of Fulton County. That case needs to disappear. Along with some BS excuse that we can't go after a president. He's doing this. He tried. And I almost said he's doing. Trump is trying to do the same thing with Letitia. He's trying to do the same thing with Letitia James. He's trying to do the same thing with James Comey. He is trying to basically pull the same playbook that he did on Fannie Willis, except it wouldn't work. Now, like the correspondent said, does that mean that they can just bring this up in another county? Unfortunately, yes. Do I hope Letitia James sues him, the Justice Department, and the U.S. government as a whole? I hope she does. Because out of two lawyers, between Pam Bondi and Letitia James, I'm going with the winner, not the lapdog. That's just me. But also with Taco, he seems to have a new target to talk about whenever it comes to immigrants, Somali immigrants. And again, I'm going to apologize for the wording that was used in this, guys, because this lets you further know how much of a piece of caca Taco really is.
Attack them, call them names, and disparage their culture. President Trump has made it clear he's no fan of the Somali people. And he says he just doesn't care if you think his views are not PC.
I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you. Okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country's no good for a reason. Their country stinks, and we don't want them in our country. I could say that about other countries, too.
Well, these attacks come as 86 people, mostly Somali, are charged for allegedly defrauding Minnesota by taking money meant for social services. Trump now seizing on these allegations as he widens his immigration crackdown, ordering ICE to target Somali immigrants across Minnesota. And that includes Minneapolis, which is home to the nation's largest Somali population. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey joins me now as he's prepping his city for these ICE raids. Sir, good to see you.
Thanks so much for having me, Kira.
Well, Trump has been using this fraud case to target the Somali community and your governor. To what extent are these allegations even true, Mayor?
Look, there are a large number of people in our state that have committed serious fraud. And for any of these fraudsters, for anybody that has stolen money that should have gone to feeding kids or providing housing, they should be held accountable. They should get prosecuted to the full extent of the law, and they should ultimately get put in jail. That being said, we should hold them accountable as individuals, not entire communities. That's not how our Constitution works in America. You should receive the benefit from your meritorious work. You should see the downside when you don't do what you should be doing. Here's the thing. Donald Trump is targeting the entire Somali community. These are American citizens. These are people who are here legally. They've been contributing greatly to our city, in most cases for decades. And we want to do everything possible right now to stand by them.
Let me pick up on that. As the largest Somali population in the U.S., why is this community so important to Minneapolis?
They're important to Minneapolis because they're part of our family. They're part of the fabric of the place where we call home. They're bankers, they're real estate agents, there are babysitters. They have been incessantly involved in both the economy and the cultural fabric of Minneapolis now for quite a long time. And look, we love them. We care about them. And our message to them is that we're going to stand with them. And these horrific attacks that we're seeing by Donald Trump, again, on American citizens, there's somewhere around 80,000 Somali people that live in Minnesota. Almost all of them are American citizens. They are here legally, and we're going to do everything possible to protect them. My thought is that when Donald Trump issued whatever order he issued down to ICE and some of these federal agencies, is that they're not going to be able to fully carry it out. Because once they get here, they're going to realize that these people are here legally. And unless you're talking about violating habeas corpus or you're violating due process, then you can't do the things that they've been directed to do.
Yesterday, you signed this executive order protecting city parking lots from immigration enforcement use. What else are you doing to prep for these ICE operations?
We're prepping every single day with a number of different jurisdictions to make sure that we're doing everything possible to help. First, we've got a Know Your Rights campaign, letting people know that they do not need to answer questions. They're able to stay silent, and they should be able to speak with an attorney. Second, we're making sure that people know that they don't need to open the door unless federal agents have a warrant. And third, we have a system set up so that we're able to communicate with a number of groups throughout the city, able to provide them information, often in real time, so that they're able to keep their community safe, and we're able to work directly with them.
You know, you've been mayor since 2018.
So we'll stop it right there, just because, again, Taco always has to find somebody of people of color to mess with. And even more so, we'll sit there and say, well, I don't care how you feel. That's just the way I feel. I just want to just bring up some greatest hits before I get to the consequence of this, because I've said it once and I've said it again on this show. White people, especially degenerate white folks, I call them napkins, but they love Taco because he says and does things without consequence or accountability. Even more so when he sit there and says the weirdest, the most vilest thing about immigrants, like Exhibit A.
But I think the real number is 15, 16 million people into our country. When they do that, we got a lot of work to do. They're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done. They poison mental institutions and prisons all over the world, not just in South America, not just the 3 or 4 countries that we think about, but all over the world. They're coming into our country from Africa, from Asia, all over the world. They're pouring into our country. Nobody's even looking at them. They just come in. The crime is going to be tremendous. The terrorism is going to be, and then we built a tremendous piece of the wall. And then
see that level of just say whatever he wants and again, no consequences. That's not the only time. Keep in mind, always with immigrants, his obsession with immigrants, although your wife is immigrant, the first hostage is an immigrant, which is still amazing to me because she got it on a genius visa, although there's not a mark of intelligence, but I digress. But the fact that he talked about the blood of the immigrants, they're poisoning the blood of our country. The fact that they come from these shithole countries, and who could forget this wonderful gem?
Genes. And we got a lot of bad genes in our country right now.
Trump is spouting eugenics, the discredited and immoral belief that planned breeding can improve the human species by breeding out so-called undesirable traits and encouraging people with desirable traits to reproduce. It gained popularity during the early 20th century. It was Hitler's whole thing. But this isn't the first time Trump has espoused eugenics.
Come on, we like racehorses too. The fast ones produce the fast ones, and the slow ones doesn't work out so well, right? We have good genes, you know that, right? A lot of it's about the genes, isn't it? Don't you believe? The racehorse theory, you think was so different? You have good genes in Minnesota.
Trump's biographer, Michael D'Antonin, said in 2016 that Trump's family believes in eugenics.
The family subscribes to a racehorse theory of human development. They believe that there are superior people, and that if you put together the genes of a superior woman and a superior man, you get superior offspring.
This is just the latest example of the frightening ways Trump dehumanizes immigrants. Despite Trump constantly using the term migrant crime, violent crime rates are dropping throughout the U.S., and studies show immigrants commit crimes at lower rates than U.S. citizens.
Now, outside of that, and I say outside of that because he sat there and says about immigrants having bad genes, that the poisoning the blood of our country, that they come from shithole countries. You're like, okay, well, that's usually him, but that doesn't explain anything else.
Dropping my skills on the heels of Montezuma, so my enemies.
Sorry about that, guys. That was loud. And that was a little bit loud. I apologize profusely. But it's the whole level, guys, of just, and I say this for the simple fact of the matter, it's just that there's consequences to this. Really and truly, there are consequences to the fact of the matter that you just cannot fly off the freaking handle and say what you want to say. There's not. You just simply cannot do that. And at the same time, what's so scary? What is really scary, guys, and I mean this wholeheartedly when I say scary, when I sit there and say there were consequences, and I'm just waiting for my screen to load. I apologize because I thought it would load a little bit sooner. So hang on a second. Let's try that again because, yeah, let's try that again. There we go. So remember what I sat there and said about consequences? Just follow the story for a second because all these people wanted was some Cinnabon, but in turn, they got told this.
Body makes you a better person.
Are you recording?
I'm gonna record you. Yes.
Do you want me to throw water on you? I am racist.
Idiot, for
And
real.
you are.
You are an idiot. No,
I
I'm
am
not.
racist, and I'll say that to the whole entire world. Don't be disrespectful.
You ruin your life, by the way. Oh, you talking about respect? You talking about respect? You are fired from this place, mother. You're not gonna be working here.
Suck it.
Suck what? Look how you
Suck
fucking look
it.
like. What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you, you ugly Get the out of
Ugly?
my face.
Talking about ugliness?
Did I stutter?
You we're
Face
not.
for
No,
what?
we're not. No, we're not.
Because you know damn well you're a
Respect.
evil.
Respect. Keep squeezing that caramel. Get the out of here.
So for all those that didn't catch that, so apparently this couple was going to a Cinnabon in Wisconsin and basically ran into somebody who I guess there must have been an issue initially at first where there was a problem with I guess that the wife wanted something a little bit extra, a little bit more on her whatever she ordered. And apparently old girl decided that she was just gonna effing snap. So like I said, there's consequences to this, guys. And this next part should not be surprising, but this trend is growing because that's not the end of this story.
You can hear in the video, the husband was going to tell this woman that she was going to be fired for her words, and he would end up being right. A day after the video would be posted online, Cinnabon would release an official statement on X and across social media and would confirm that the employee had been immediately fired for her tirade. Now, at this point, white people saying the N-word is no longer shocking for some, but seeing the person go on to raise money after being filmed using one of the most hateful words because of the pain associated with it continues to catch many off guard. And just like when the white mother in Minnesota will go viral this April for using the N-word and later raising over $700,000 for people across the country, this woman too is gaining support and donations. According to reports, a Give, Send, Go account would end up being started for the now fired woman and would ask people to support her after the incident. They would go on to write, "Meet Crystal, hardworking white mom doing her job at Cinnabon. Two Somali customers decided to make her shift hell with intimidation. Instead of banning the offenders and backing their employee, Cinnabon fires Crystal to keep the nons happy. We're not letting this slide. Funds go to making sure Crystal lands on her feet after this betrayal. No white person should lose their job for refusing to be harassed by Somalians." Now, they will go on to set the donation goal for nearly $110,000, and upon this report, donations have already reached over $105,000. And when it came down to those who were donating to the woman, they would leave comments to explain why they were showing their support. One would write, "Stood your ground. We need more like you." Followed by another, "The local smellies do this all the time. Send them back." And one more would say, "Crystal just said what we all feel." Now, as mentioned, what appears to be a bit troubling for some is the support women like this have gone on to receive. Now, in response to the donation.
So I'll stop it right there because, again, for all those that weren't paying attention, that's Give, Send, Go. Now, we talked about Give, Send, Go because the woman that sat there and called an immigrant child the N-word on a playground and kept calling the N-word. Remember when I sat there and said at Give, Send, Go, her donations nearly equaled up to $600,000? $600,000 for calling an immigrant child the N-word. Now you have another Karen who apparently did not do customer service well, decided to act an ass. Someone created another Give, Send, Go because, it's a Christian site. And as you can see, guys, had a goal of 109,000 at the time of this, and this is outdated. That's well over 110,000 now. And I am not going to show it on Give, Send, Go because I'm not trying to give it attention. I am not trying to give it traction. I honestly think it's fracking disgusting because as it never ceased to amaze me that white people and some black people, let me not knock it, some white people and some black people have figured out, you can profit off hate, or you can hate grift. You can grift off people who hate and get them to give you money. Work for Charlie Kirk, work for Pete Hegseth, work for Candace Owens, work for the Hodge twins, work for Officer Tate, work for Jesse Peterson, work for Stephen A. Smith as he's finding out. Whenever it's black hatred, you can grift it and it's profitable. And now that Karen from the Cinnabon Karen could possibly walk away with over $100,000 and social media fame. Wouldn't be surprised if she's at the next conservative CPAC event. Wouldn't be surprised to see her turning point, because, Charlie Kirk's wife all of a sudden, I guess, is done grieving and now she's collecting paychecks. The thing I'm saying, guys, is there is no profit like grifting Black hatred. And even more so, the people that donated tells you exactly about the world we live in. It tells you about the world we live in. That they sit there and say, oh, well, those smellies do this all the time. Those are the people I talk about. And Give, Send, Go. Let me tell you something about you, Give, Send, Go, for you to be a Christian profiting, a Christian Kickstarter or GoFundMe. Y'all are full of shit. You see people giving in hatred and you don't stop it. Well, we try to be open and anybody can do. I said, no, it's stupid. This is the second time that a racist prick, a racist, bigotous prick has gotten a nice 5-figure payday because of this. And people will egg this on. And again, you know what this is to me? This is almost like streamer mentality. We talked about this on Blurred's Eye View, where these streamers that have created such things, you've created this monster that you have profited on, this monster that has changed your life financially with endorsements, things of that nature, monetization. You created that monster that you can no longer feed the way you used to. And all you have done is show that, hey, if you are willing to go, if you are willing to show this extreme, do not be surprised that now the monster is basically saying, you used to feed me. It's like Little Shop of Horrors. You created Seymour, and now Seymour's saying, feed me the way you did before. With every drop of blood that you gave, and I still am not, and I am still famished. I am still starving. And now, hate profiteering will never go away. Why? Because if you go viral because you called a person of color or a person of a different ethnic group, and only because, and I always go to the source. The way Taco talks about people, the way Taco talks about immigrants, other white folks feel emboldened and empowered. And I'm going to be honest, I'm one of the ones that's liable to hit you in the mouth because a lot of y'all need to be checked. Because a lot of y'all have no fear of not account. Yeah, a lot of you people out there have no fear of accountability because you see the current administration has no accountability. And I've said it best. Don't let your president get your ass whooped. But speaking of things that don't make any sense, you ever want to see a hate conference in real life and yet at the same time wonder who all will attend it? Unfortunately, in my state of Tennessee, one did exist. I wish I could make this up.
Monday, we're getting brand new insight about the guest list for an annual hate conference at a state park right here in Middle Tennessee. And we've now discovered it includes people who have celebrated political violence. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rory Johnston. Carrie is off. The American Renaissance Conference has been coming to the area since 2012, yet not much has been known about the cast of characters who attend. That is until now. News Channel 5 Chief Investigative Reporter Phil Williams was there 3 weeks ago when the conference returned to Montgomery Bell State Park in Dixon County. Phil is with us now, and I know you've been working hard to figure out who you were actually seeing come into that place, right?
That's right, which was not something that the conference organizers liked at all. As it turns out, there's probably a good reason.
If you are not here to celebrate and lift up love, what are you doing here? Why would you come?
Among the changing colors of the season,
Here for the conference? What's your last name?
visitors came from across the country for a conference where the only color that really matters is white.
But because there are 200 or 300 people in that building over there that believe only they belong in this country.
Here at Tennessee's Montgomeryville State Park, protesters were kept far from attendees at the American Renaissance Conference, an event that, as the protesters see it, represents the worst of the world of hate.
And we want our message of tolerance and acceptance to stand in stark contrast to what they're advocating for in there.
Exactly what they advocate inside the park's lodge is a closely guarded secret, as is the guest list, which is what led us to stake out the security checkpoint standing in a public spot in a public park, where we found some attendees desperate to hide from our cameras. For this woman, it was an effort that required both hands.
It's my understanding that you have been providing these pictures to people in past years.
And this man, a longtime American Renaissance speaker and attorney who has represented the Klan and other hate groups, accused us of working with domestic terrorists. So when he stopped to take pictures, I decided to confront his questions directly. Did you have any questions for me?
Well, I'd be happy to ask you. Y'all are with Channel 5?
I am with Channel 5. I'm Phil Williams.
Hi, I'm Sam Dixon. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Sam.
The reason is we have reason to be concerned because we have lost a couple with a group called Antifa. And they have tried to prevent us from having our meetings. And
I assure you, I'm not Antifa. Back at the checkpoint, we saw some familiar faces.
Hello, Thomas. How are you, sir?
That's Thomas Rousseau. He's the leader of the Patriot Front, the white nationalist group known for its flash mob protests, as well as its training of young men for battle. They want an America that's for whites only. And this is Eric Orwell, the Arkansas man who heads Return to the Land, the group that wants to build a whites-only community in Tennessee. Recently posted photos show Patriot Front showed up at Orwell's compound in Arkansas to help with building projects there. That despite what seemed like his efforts to distance himself from the group when we talked a few weeks back. When we did the Zoom interview, you expressed some ambivalence. But then they came to your place and did some work.
No, I'm all for helping them and them helping us. I do have some personal ideological disagreements, but they're relatively minor.
Then there's Greg Johnson, the man in the passenger seat who, as you can see, was none too happy to see our cameras. One of the speakers at the conference, Johnson is author of the White Nationalist Manifesto. After a mass murder committed by neo-Nazi Anders Breivik in 2011, first killing 8 people with a van bomb, followed by the massacre of 69 people at a Norwegian youth camp, Greg Johnson wrote of his, quote, strange new respect for the killer, who he argued was engaged in resistance to genocide. Although Johnson said it would have been better if he had killed the actual leadership of Norway's Labour Party or the leaders of the Norwegian press instead of innocent children. Breivik, he wrote, simply chose the wrong targets for his killing spree. Back at the protest, does it surprise you that you have someone like Greg Johnson who, defends mass shooters?
It doesn't surprise me. Like I said, it is the worst of the worst.
Then there was Johnson's companion, David Zeddy. He has defended the neo-Nazi who drove into a crowd of protesters in Charlottesville, killing 32-year-old Heather Heyer. The killer was convicted of first-degree murder. Yet David Zeddy tweeted, quote, James Fields is a hero who did nothing wrong. And, quote, Charlottesville made me realize that many liberals aren't fully human, along with the true extent of Jewish media control. He has also defended those who assaulted Capitol Police on January 6th. We also spotted this man from Atlanta. His name is Jared Huggins, and he was once part of a neo-Nazi group called Identity Europa. Huggins was also in Charlottesville, according to hate researchers who uncovered this Facebook post under a different last name where he called the weekend, quote, effing metal, and this Twitter post where he celebrated the Dodge Challenger used in the murder. Then there was a Pennsylvania man who heads a publishing house that reprints Nazi and other far-right books, and this young man from East Tennessee wearing a cap for the National Alliance. His name, we discovered, is Dylan Gaidano. National Alliance is a group originally founded by neo-Nazi William Pierce. Pierce's book, The Turner Diaries, helped inspire Oklahoma City bomber Timothy McVeigh. Social media accounts linked to Gaetano have expressed admiration for violent white supremacists Robert J. Matthews and Frazier Glenn Miller. One Telegram post stated, quote, "For me at least, if our goals aren't met in my lifetime, I will pull a page out of Master Sergeant Frazier Glenn Miller's playbook." Frazier Glenn Miller shot and killed 3 members of a Kansas Jewish community in 2014 because he wanted to kill some Jews before he died.
Perhaps the best clue about what was happening inside comes from this man we spotted at the checkpoint. Emil Kazman is a Romanian-born pro-Russian podcaster who was invited to the conference to observe.
Right over there, they are videotaping us because somehow we are bad dudes.
This was Kosman we spotted outside the lodge. He later described the atmosphere inside the conference as one where it was anti-Semitism that really invigorated the crowd.
Yeah, the Jews are in control of it. These kind of things. A lot of people cheered. Oh yeah, like good job, man, telling us the truth.
The podcaster said the National Alliance had a table set up where it was selling its materials, but American Renaissance insisted that the Turner Diaries be kept under the table out of public view.
Guys, you know what the reason was? These guys are neo-Nazis. These are Nazis. That was the answer. They are Nazis. That's why we don't do it. It's a Nazi book.
Mr. Taylor, hi, Phil Williams.
That's a far different story from when I first met American Renaissance founder Jerry Taylor a year ago.
How about the neo-Nazis?
I don't even know a neo-Nazi.
But inside the conference this year,
he said, well, that, what was his expression? That promotes violence and terrorism. Do you know that?
Kosman said Jerry Taylor privately insisted the group's Turner Diaries was a real problem. Which is why these protesters say what happens here inside this state park cannot be ignored.
And this group kind of represents the worst of the worst. And I wanted to at least be out here to say that that's not the America that I grew up with. That's not the America that I believe in.
So what's crazy about this, and again, that man is the man. If you don't know who he is, especially if you're in Middle Tennessee, that journalist right there, he is definitely always on it. Mr. Phil Williams, I apologize, sir. Again, national standpoint in Middle Tennessee, exceptional journalist. But want to give that man his props. But yeah, think about that. In hate conference. And this goes back to the fact that we had Nazis downtown in Nashville marching, untouched. Had all the police protection in the world. And I've never understood that. Because I kept on saying, oh, Nazis will never march into people of color's neighborhoods. Not by themselves. They will march in the safest places, but they will never march in people of color's communities. Number one, they will get stomped the hell out. And I won't feel bad about it. Well, they have the right to say whatever they want to say. You do. Until you come into a place where you're not wanted, and then your actions will lead to your consequences. And again, I'm not trying to advocate violence, but sometimes we used to stomp Nazis out. We used to stomp racists out to get the message. And even now in a park, I know a lot of people are going to sit there and say, well, Will, look where they're at. I know. I'll be the first person to say it. I know, because I know that park. I know that county. I have sat there and said many a times, it is good old boys territory. I have sat there and said it many a times that in Dixon, in Dixon County, if you are from Tennessee, you already know the counties that I'm about to talk about are good old boys counties. Dixon, Cheatham, Wilson, Humphreys, Hickman, Houston. I can keep going. But we all know where the good old boys territories are. Dixon is no different. And the fact that there is security at a park screams volumes. That why are we protecting? And I say this before. And I'm like I said, I know a lot of people are going to use the free speech argument. I sit there and say, if you see nothing wrong with what you say, you don't need protection. You don't need police presence. You don't need police escorts. You don't need any of this. If you believe in what you are saying, then go ahead and show the world. Why be secretive? Why hide? Why go into a spot where you're mad because you're on camera? Because, well, you're a racist bigot. Racist people would be called anything else. But the moment you call them racist, it's like, how dare you call me what I am? Well, it's because you are, motherfucker. Accept it. Endure it. That's what you are. So at the same time, with a white nationalist conference, because I know a lot of people are going to say this, I will say this best. What if all of a sudden other people of color had their own conferences? What if there was an all-American, what was an African-American conference that was held literally at TSU? Oh, white people would have to be nervous and nosy, because why are they all meeting? What if Muslims decided to have a meeting at a mosque? Here come the nosy ass white people. We got to know what those Muslims are doing. They could be terrorists. Same way with Somalians. Same way. I can keep going down the list, because white people have this bullshit thing going to where it's simply put, if it's not us, everybody's a threat. When the most dangerous threat is the most dangerous threat is the white male. The white man is the most dangerous domestic terrorist in the U.S. It's only because a lot of people don't want us to then call them what they are: homegrown American Taliban. But again, in Tennessee, they were able to have a conference with security and untouched. And that alone will tell you how far we have to go in this deep ass red state before we can actually turn some things blue. But a few more stories, guys, we'll get to before we get to our feel good segment. Thank you for watching. I know we ran a little bit long because I wanted to give Jasmine Crockett all her shine as she should. But yeah, also this video, because again, I haven't talked about Department of the Secretary of Defense, never sober Pete Hegseth is trying to claim that he's been exonerated from Signalgate. And I wish I could make that.
Daryl, a new Pentagon watchdog report finds that Secretary Hegseth risked endangering U.S. troops by relaying this information about that strike in March over the Signal app. It's been referred to as Signalgate. But the report says that he has the authority to declassify information, and the Pentagon says it's a total exoneration of Hegseth. What do you make about what we're learning?
The Secretary of Defense has historically had the ability to declassify, but declassifying is an actual process. And so he didn't go through that process clearly, as demonstrated in the press, as demonstrated by the IG report. So whether he was able to declassify it beforehand, which I think is doubtful, because this was an action that was going to happen over the next several hours. So I think that's specious argument at best.
All right, Daryl, Jay, we'll stay on the story, both parts of it. Thanks, guys. Daryl, a new Pentagon watchdog report.
Pause, let me beat me to it. So, long story short, guys, is the fact that he's not exonerated. An inspector general sat there and said, yes, this man may have put lives at risk. And because of that, they also sat there and said, well, the Secretary of Defense can also declassify information that may not be mission critical. So, of course, Pete Hegseth and his group, we've been exonerated. No. The Inspector General just sat there and said, yeah, you completely fracked up. But at the same time, you have the ability to declassify information. However, I've never seen any defense secretary give out military information on a chat with others, including his wife. And again, if the winds hold true, maybe Hegseth may be on his way out. Maybe Kash Patel may be on his way out. We can only hope. Also, as if Taco could not be any bigger about himself, he decided that, hey, I'm going to replace myself on a free day that you can go to the national park, but I'm going to remove MLK Day and June 16th and Juneteenth because of it.
The National Park Service is switching up its free admission days starting next year. The agency says you will no longer get in free on MLK Day and Juneteenth. The new list for the 2026 year does add a notable new free date. It's June 14th. It is Flag Day and President Trump's birthday. Other new free days include President's Day, Memorial Day, Independence Day, Constitution Day, and Teddy Roosevelt's birthday. The National Park Service also says free entrance on those select dates will only be for U.S. citizens and residents. Neither the Trump administration nor the Park Service have commented publicly on their reasoning behind the changes. Let's bring in historian Manisha Sinha, who works at the University of Connecticut, along with pastor, activist, and author Jamal Bryant. Thank you all for joining us. So Manisha, we'll start with you. Has there ever been another moment in U.S. history where these kinds of federal changes are being made in support of a sitting president?
No, there has never been a change in that respect. No sitting president has had their birthday declared as a free day in the park. For instance, that's not a federal holiday. Even Flag Day, on which Trump's birthday falls, is not a federal holiday. So the reasoning behind this change is a little mysterious because it will not benefit most visitors to these parks who.
And not to cut her off, because there's nothing else that can be said about this. There's nothing else that can be said. There is no benefit. This is his vanity. This is, you will get in and be recognized on my day, not MLK Day, not Juneteenth, which, by the way, it's still fresh as a recognized federal holiday, even though some companies out there still don't recognize it as a federal holiday. I know it's some bullshit. But the simple fact of the matter is, he wanted to make this about him. Just like with FIFA and them giving him a fake-ass peace prize, he wanted to make this about him. That is all that there is to it. There is nothing more, nothing less. I want you to get recognized on my birthday by enjoying these parks because I made it possible. He wants admiration. He wants all the attention. This imbecile is nothing more than a man-child trying to make sure that above all else, you give him his flowers involuntarily as much as humanly possible. Even if he's willing to remove a day such as MLK Day as a free day division national parks, even removing Juneteenth, both recognized as federal holidays, and he's willing to remove them both if it means his name is in the history book. Because he wants to have his name plastered everywhere because he's a fucking con man who never made it in life. That's all I'm saying. But we're going to go and move on to our feel-good segment because you know how Frack we got here. We do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom. Sometimes it makes you your faith in humanity. But hey, today is Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. We will leave you guys out some good positive vibrations. And hopefully this next thing will do just that. Because Hugh Jackman, Mr. Music Man himself, multiple musicals, literally the greatest show. I can Les Miserables. I can keep going down the list of everything he's been in. But he decided to basically show up at high school. And again, talent is definitely there.
A high school choir, courtesy of the Music Man himself. Rhiannon Alley is here with the story. And boy, I cannot imagine if Hugh Jackman showed up.
Especially to your high school,
Yeah.
right? Yes, Hugh Jackman went to Milwaukee for his new movie, Song Sung Blue, and The Greatest Showman really made the most of it. The Milwaukee High School of the Arts Choir was in their classroom when they got a huge surprise. Look at this. I think that's pretty much the reaction any of us would have if Hugh Jackman entered stage right. Look at that. Everyone's shocked, delighted. And that wasn't it. Let's listen now as they serenaded the actor with From Now On from The Greatest Showman, which is, by the way, headed to Broadway. How emotional he was. Can you imagine having to sing in front of Hugh Jackman?
I know, but what a treat for them, right?
What a treat. And that wasn't all. Jackman donated $10,000 for new instruments, another $5,000 to help the school make upgrades to its auditorium. Hugh Jackman is in Milwaukee promoting his new movie with Kate Hudson. It's based on a Milwaukee couple, even posting a photo on social media in a cheese head.
Yeah,
I know, greatest show, all this stuff. Still won't call him Wolverine. But anyway, good to actually see somebody, enjoy it. And also the greatest show. Look, I don't care. There are some theater plays I wouldn't mind watching. Hamilton, The Greatest Show, Les Miserables, Phantom of the Opera. Yes, there are some theater plays I do love. Not just because I have an exceptional family member, who is touring right now. I'm happy for him. He knows he knows who he is. But still, want to give shine to that. And also the fact that we are encouraging a new generation in different areas other than sports. Always beautiful things. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. Thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate it. Some shameless plugging before we do get out of here, guys. Shout out to Always Press Record TV, APR TV. Why? Because How the Frack can be seen on APR TV. It's an app that can be found on the Roku channel or Amazon Fire TV app, along with other shows there. Definitely check it out. You will not be disappointed. Also, BlurStation.com. I've been talking about this streaming site for a while, guys, for content for us, by us to enjoy. Movies, television, anime, cartoons, you got it, they have it. $10.99 a month to stream Blur Station. Go to BlurStation.com and sign up, and Blur Station can be streamed on all smart devices. You want to get on this train before it leaves the station. Trust me. Also, check us out on YouTube at How the Frack We Got Here, How the Frack We Got Here podcast. If you type that up, it will be the first thing that pops up. You definitely want to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification button for every time that we do have an upload or go live sometimes. You definitely do not want to miss us. And again, we cannot do any of this without your support. And we thank everybody that's subscribed. And hopefully, if you haven't subscribed, please join us because we definitely want to be able to continue this mission of informing and educating people. Also, my other show, video games, things of that nature, the Get Bit podcast, the GB podcast, every Friday at 8:30-ish. Definitely check it out, guys. Of course, the Get Bit podcast on YouTube. Like, share, and subscribe as we will basically talk this week about the Game Awards that are happening tomorrow. We are expecting a lot of news and things of that nature. Definitely join us Friday night. Again, you will not be disappointed. Also, we can be found on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts. I gotta go back and go check that. But we can found the same way, How the Frack got here. So if you do want us to our podcast, just audio only, you can definitely find us there. Just simply type up the name and sign on. Again, we would certainly appreciate it. Also, myself, my personal Black_Spartan615. You can follow my social there. I usually talk to everybody. Just don't make it weird. I don't want to get the whole thing of blocking everybody. At the same time, guys, mental health is important. I cannot stress enough. Protect your mental. When you're fortify your mind and the body follows. So do the things that'll make you relax, that'll make you happy. Don't doom scroll. Sometimes just take a break from smart devices and just enjoy the weather. The weather's changing. Read a book. Enjoy some good food and good drinks. Enjoy some good friends. At the same time, check on them. See how they're doing, because right now it is gets that time of year where it might be a little bit harder for everybody else. But definitely protect your mental, protect your strength, protect your happiness, protect your peace. At the same time, guys, next year is going to be critical. And before I do get to next year, guys, I know we're getting to the holiday season. Guys, not everything is about presents. A lot of people right now are hurting. A lot of people right now need help. If you have the ability, and let me stress this very heavily, because I know right now times is tight for everybody. If you have the ability to help, please do so. It's not always monetary. If you can donate your time, your ability to volunteer, things of that nature, maybe cook, maybe help build something, whatever it may be, find something that you can, if you can help. And I say a mighty big if you can help, please help. No matter how you can do it, please help. Because I guarantee in some way, form, or fashion, it will be welcomed and it will be appreciated. But please do so within the confines of your abilities. Please do not overstretch yourself. Please do not put yourself in a worse situation trying to help people. Simply put, do what you can if you can. At the same time, guys, the last thing I'll say about How the Frack got here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply giving you information allow you to make up your own mind, but we do provide a perspective that goes along with it. We do better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to right the wrongs of our past by making decisions now that we should have done back then. Like electing our first Black woman to the Supreme Court, electing our first Black woman to be the Federal Reserve governor, and maybe one day soon, hopefully electing our first Black Texas senator. And down the road, maybe electing our first Black woman to be called Madam President. All great things. We don't learn from history. We are doomed to repeat it. That's what we keep asking ourselves. Why does everything go but our paycheck? Why are we electing different politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, How the Frack got here. Thank you all for watching, guys. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and I promise we will get through this. Live long and prosper, guys. Yes, I'm a Trekkie. Yes, I believe in it, and you can too. Take care of yourselves and each other. We'll be all right. Peace.